Hey, I'm Average Jones.
What's up, baby? Take me out to dinner.
Hey, yo!
Alright, today we're talking about grayscale drawings and putting some color to it.
How, Sway?
So in this video, I'm going to show you my process and how I'm able to complete an illustration in grayscale and be able to successfully add vibrant and natural looking colors. So let's jump right in. Step 1 is to have a line drawing. Try to imagine your line drawing as your map. You need to be able to navigate your way around, and a solid map is going to enable you to do that so much easier. I spend the most of my time working and cleaning up my lines before I even dive into anything else. A great tip to establish great lines is to use a brush that gives you your desired look. Now I know you hear a lot of art advice telling you that different brushes don't matter, and yeah, that's true, you can complete an entire illustration just using the default brushes. But the truth is, having your own brush set does help set you apart, and if it helps smoothen your process and give you your desired look, then I'd say go with what works. Now step 2 is the gray undertone. Next, I like to add a mid-tone gray beneath my line layer. This is going to be your base tone that you can add lighter and darker values to. Now for my new artists, when I say lighter and darker values, I mean lighter grays and darker grays essentially. I'd recommend you not to add any areas that are true white or true black unless that is exactly what you're going for. The reason being is color does not affect true white or true black. You can use certain layer types that will give you a nice effect over it, but that can be a gamble. Also, starting at a mid-tone makes it easier to add values, rather than starting super dark and trying to build up lighter values or vice versa. Another perk to having a gray undertone is it keeps everything within that area, and it allows you to affect the entire subject as a whole if you needed to, such as adding a gradient or texture. You can set a layer mask in Photoshop, or if you're using Clip Studio like I am, you can simply set this layer as a reference layer and clip any layers to this reference layer as you go. The cleaner you make the undertone, the cleaner the colors will look later in the process, and will be less cleanup later on. The step 3 is values. This is where we begin our rendering. It is helpful to have a general idea of the colors that you want to use in your design. A helpful tip is to set down all the colors you want to use next to each other. Then add a hue and saturation layer and turn the saturation all the way down. This will show you how warm or cool the colors look when in grayscale. You can also do this to any reference you're using as a color palette. General rule of thumb for design is to stay around 3 colors if you're designing a character. Definitely no more than 5 colors though. The simpler the design, the better. Take Sasuke from Naruto for example. His color design consists of white, purple, blue for the blacks, and with a red accent. This is why the gray midtone is so important. If we were to select a color and choose its most saturated and truest color, such as this red, green, and blue you see here, we can then desaturate these colors and color pick its gray value. It will give me a gray tone right in the middle of the value spectrum. This applies for all 3 of these colors. It's pretty interesting, right? Now if I were to add color onto this using an overlay layer, it will give me the exact same color I originally chose. Remember to use separate layers for your shadows and highlights as well. We're going to need those for later when we add color. It's even more useful to use separate layers based on different elements of the character, such as a hat, the skin, any ornaments they're wearing. We've all been lost in our layers at some point, so try to keep those organized as well. Now, step 4 is color. This is the part we've all been waiting for. If you took your time on all the previous steps, then this step is going to be the fastest and easiest part of the process. Now we drop the colors in the areas we designated, select our shadows, and add in more saturated colors to help the shadows pop. If it's too much, that's fine. Either try a less saturated color or lower down the layer opacity until it's to your liking. I like to play around with this stage quite a bit. Sometimes our initial idea doesn't quite hit the mark after we see it as a whole, and this is quite common for the more indecisive artists such as myself. I tend to tinker around until I feel satisfied. And step 5 is the fit and finish. Go around the entire image and clean up any areas that need it. It's okay to zoom in here and there and tidy things up. Adjust the overall image using hue and saturation, as well as brightness and contrast to really make the image pop. Once done, I like to add in a little film grain, then I add a slight radial blur starting from my focal point to give it a more cinematic look. This really does take it to the next level. If that's not what you're going for, that's fine as well. I also like to copy my line layer and try adding this on top of my final image. This will keep the lines dark, but it'll add color to them, giving the overall image a more finalized look. And that's it, we're finished. Let's see how it turned out.